What up, everybody? Scuff D here. And it's been a while since I've done a deck profile or a warlord profile. Get a little comfortable here. now. So as you can see, I've been doing Falk. And I don't know if it's pronounced Falk, as in walk, or fall with a K, or talk. I'm going to talk about Falk. And then, I don't want you to balk, but then we're going to walk with Falk. And it's going to be pretty cool. That's who I've been running. I think we are 9 hours away from Custodes. Legio Custodes hitting the game. We have got, following that, new neutral cards being added to the pool. Potentially new neutral warlord, but basically new neutral cards to add some options to existing decks. So the meta's changing. It's evolving. This season is just kind of all weird. I still have some crazy stuff just going on in life, kind of stealing my time away from playing. I've been able to get a few ladder games in. Well, actually, I think the last 3 days have been ladder games. And then the first part of this month was really just kind of squeezing in some event games and some games with Aramon in practice for some wins and just to kind of keep up on things. But I figured, okay, normally I do 2 months with one warlord to choose a warlord, stick with it, see how they compare in 2 months' time. If I follow the same level of success based off of either changes within the game, changes within the meta, and then just learning my deck in general. With Falk, I'm going to make him my project for the next 2 months. Now that might change, I'll be honest with you. That might change if I end up with awesome Custodes cards that I just fall in love with and everything goes to heck from there. But for the time being, I enjoy Falk, I've had fun with it, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Last month I did Kurz. The last 2 months I did Kurz rather, and before that I did Alfarius, and before that I did Fulgrim. So I do Falk in ladder, and then for challenges like this one here is just destroy enemy troops. I'm just gonna have to play a bunch of practice games and get that one done, because Falk games go pretty quick. They don't focus on troops at all. That troops are secondary in that regard. And I think I got on here, I think I've got some Garo practice games here for challenge. I was trying to use use Warlord ability 20 times in one match, and it took forever to find an opponent who was willing to let me do that. And it turned out that opponent was a bot. So thank you, bot, Salt Harvets. But first, let's analyze Falk. Now, you can go into Kazram's video. He's done Falk. Skypoint has also done Falk. And when I get a chance to edit and revise this, I'll add links to their videos for their thing. I think Kazram's got several videos on Falk with his breakdown. I don't know if my build is entirely the same or not. I've been focused on it for a while to try to build it as a mid-range to have a variety of options, and I feel that it does. So what it does, what this deck does is, first off and foremost, it revolves. I can't say it revolves. Its big thing. Its big thing is getting these guys out. You get these guys out here, and then the next turn you Falk them. So first off, they take 1 damage themselves, which makes them a 5/5, and then you Falk them, and that makes them a 7/4. From there, you either have the ability or the option to use Harsh Discipline and make them a 9/3 with Bloodthirst, which means that they'll do 9 and then they'll do 11. Yes? Yeah. Stay with me there. Stay with me on that. So that's 20 damage from one card. Or you use Escape Vent to keep them alive when you play them in hand. You use Lactitio to draw that card. I've actually got 2 Bitter Ends here to keep the potential in the event that I and playing like a World Eaters or some other faster flanker, I might throw these out there if I don't have any escape vents in hand, so that the following turn my vets might have a better option of not taking too much damage. You use the Rhino to, at the end of your turn, draw an Astartes from your deck. Now, Tyranthicos Veteran is the only Astartes in my deck, so I do not have to worry hard on getting him. I would like to have an escape vent, and I would like to have a Harsh Discipline in hand. The bitter end, thankfully, lets me draw a card as well. So there's a lot of tutoring to go with that precision bombardment, which is just a great early troop kill, but on top of that, this gives me a potential way to draw cards as well, because it shuffles in and I draw a card. So I've got a lot of ways to get those cards into my hands. That's the main, I don't want to say the main combo, but that's really the thing that people don't want to see when they're playing Falk. They don't want to see me throw that guy down, they don't want to see me put escape vent on it, and they really don't want to see me on my next turn have Harsh Discipline. But that's not the only thing I have. As you note, I got the Beast of Fire in here, and if I had a second one, I would probably find a way to squeeze a second one in. Now they've got Maintenance 2, which does limit my options the following turn if I play them on a 4-drop. And depending on my matchup, I will play them as a 4-drop to bait my opponent out. Now, you can't ignore these guys. They've got to do something with them. Or I'll hold off, bait my opponent out with a Tyranthicos Veteran, and then follow up with a Beast. Now, Beast of Fire, I can't Harsh Discipline, but guess what? I don't need a Harsh Discipline because they've already got Bloodthirst. And if I whip them, they become a 6/5. A 6/5. So not only can they do the Bloodthirst, but then they might survive the following turn for me to use them again. We'll see. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. I like to keep the Nisr Scouts. They're not... There may be better options in the future. There may be better options that I've evaluated, but for the most part, as an early drop to put pressure on if I don't have a precision bombardment, Nisr Scouts are good. They are 1 turn, 3/2. The following turn, if my opponent doesn't answer them, they can still do 3 damage. Otherwise, my opponent has got to spend something to get rid of these guys. And the fact that their stealth baits out my opponent's anti-stealth board. So, a good option. And it's a cheap option. It's a way for me to get something on the table early on. Jubok is in here again in the same way that you can't ignore Beast of Fire. You don't want to ignore my Rhinos. You don't want to ignore Jubok. Every troop I've got on here, save for the Skitarii Protector, which is kind of my anti-stealth. And I might change him out, to be honest with you, because I'm finding that A, stealth is not super huge, and the games that I was worried about stealth being a problem, primarily Night Haunter and Korax, I can set it up for the most part that I don't have to worry about it, or it ends before it becomes a stealth game. So I might change out Skitarii Protector. But aside from that, those are troops that my opponent has got to spend their stuff on, and the rest of the stuff I can hide fairly well. Remer also hides, and it's wonderful lashing him with Falk, who can make him a 9/2. Now, if you don't have Falk, and I've been talking about his ability, let me show you his ability before. And I liked him when his ability used to be a 2 energy. Now he starts with an extra card, and for 1 energy, he gives +2/+0 at end of turn and deal 1 damage to all friendly troops. Now if you've got 3 or 4, sometimes even just having 2 troops on the table, being able to give them both +2/+0 for 1 energy is all you need. It's all you need sometimes. And the fact that it costs 1 energy makes it a lot easier to combo. A lot easier to get things rolling. You don't lose tempo. He's got medium initiative, which is nice. And then start with an extra card makes it easier to have the pieces of the puzzle together. But you don't need to have the puzzle. I use Falk to attack with just as a face, just to go one-on-one to wear down my opponent's health, because as we've seen, this 1, 2, 3, 4-card combo can do 20 damage in one turn. And that's nice. But if it's 20 damage and I haven't done anything, my opponent's Warlord is 40, I've spent 4 turns and done nothing. So I've got to wear them down. And then I've got Conjure. I've got the Precision Bombardments. I've got Viral Bombs, as well as Goldstone Hunters, who can for 4 energy, basically, for 3 plus Falk's ability to become a 5/1 unstoppable. And there are some games where I've held them 2 Goldstones in hand, and my opponent's got 10 health. Boom, 2 Goldstones, lash them, game, you know. So there's just so many ways to end the game quickly. I've got Harend in here because Harend's a good 6/6. It's a vehicle, and it destroys your front line. And that's just nice. That's just nice. Do I need to have it? Yeah. Could I tweak it? Maybe. But you know what? Sometimes you need to have that. You need to have that, and it gives me a body on the table. So I like this build. There's room for improvement. The Firewalkers, I'll be honest with you, the Firewalkers I've used a couple times, but not as often. Normally the games end within 5 or 6 turns, 4 or 5 turns. For turn 5 with 5 energy, 6 energy. There's been a few games that have gone to 8 energy. Very rarely do I go to 10 energy. I've gone there, but very rarely. Usually it's, I want to say about 7 or 8 energy is the average game. And at that point in time, dropping a Firewalkers isn't going to do as much, especially if there's no other troops on the table. So I might change out Firewalkers. I don't know. I like the fact, though, that they are stealthed. So I can drop them in and I can lash them, and they can also become 7/3s on my turn. So we'll see. I'm not decided there yet. Is it a perfect build? It's not perfect yet, but the way it plays is a great mid-range. I feel very comfortable with it. And it doesn't revolve around just one thing. It has various pieces that all work together to put pressure on the opponent, and you just feel good about it, and you laugh joyously, as the Warsmith would. So that's Falk. That's the build that I've got. Now you might wonder, why 2 Viral Bombs? That's excessive. 1, and I don't entirely disagree. But I added the second Viral Bombs because of the Thousand Suns. The Phosis, was it Phosis Takar? The warlord who generates the shields. Hang on here. Yes, Phosis Takar. As well as, and I don't have the Metric Cabal. I don't have those guys who generate. I don't have where they're. Mechater Cabal. I don't have these guys who generate 2 Psychic Barriers, but the Psychic Barrier spam, that's frontline and it's shields. It's a big problem for me. It eliminates my whole Tranthicos veteran combo. However, as a 1/1, it's very susceptible to Viral Bombs, and if my opponent has got 2 of those out in play, or maybe even 3 if they're so inclined, I will gladly take 1 damage from my Warlord or using an opponent to break a shield down, Viral Bomb them, that does 2, kills a Psychic Barrier, that's 3, kills the other Psychic Barrier, that's 4, most likely if they've got these guys out, the Mechater Cabal, it's going to kill them, that's 5, and anything following that who's got 5 health, that's 6, blah 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 blah. Great board clear answer to Thousand Suns from the Iron Warriors. So that's why I've got 2. And it has come in handy against non-Iron Warriors as well, just having it in hand. So I do like 2. I do like it. Plus, it's very Iron Warrior-y. That's how you end games. So here you go. You want to see it? Here you go. Boom. Let's just radiate everything. And then I've got 1 Perturavo's Wrath. I think that's a good 5-cost card. It's a pinch. You don't need to use it every time, but when you do, it really makes sense. It really opens up. If you've got 2 troops on the table, you can use that rather than use a Harsh Discipline. And then they've got Bloodthirst, as well as your Warlord having Bloodthirst, which means I can, if I've got 7 energy and 2 troops on table, I can lash twice with Falk and give all of those troops +4, where I can do +2 to all my troops and then attack with Falk. It's just very flexible. It's very flexible. It's a good pinch card to have. So I don't think I need 2. I think I like the balance of the tactics and the troops. So with that being said, I figured I'd share some replays. I've been playing him. I'm currently at 11 wins, 2 losses. Like I said, I think about 3 days of ladder play. I'm at 2,800. And you'll see on here the Garrows for my practice sessions. Falk. And these Conrad curves were actually pin games that I saved from actually longer ago. I think right even before this event started, and I just recently unpinned them. So I think I've already shared those videos in another video with the Alfarius who turned into a Megadon, and I stole his Pale Spear, and then the Fail, which was just a really quick game. I don't even know if these would replay if we watch them now, but I've got some variety here to show you. So we'll start with the let's start with this one here. This was just a good father versus son type match. Both Iron Warriors. Now, as you can see, that's a high-cost hand. Even though I'm going up against an Iron Warriors who might have some frontline, I don't need Ancient Horrend right away. I need to get rid of these cards here, which is what I did. And I got 2 cards that I like to see, the Tranthicos plus the Escape Vent, so that's a good start. But I'm at a disadvantage. He's got 5 health higher than me. I've got to wear him down. And because it's Perturabo, who can deal out 6 with his Siege mechanic every other turn, I've really got to get cranking on that. And I have to spend the first couple turns doing it. Now, one thing that I'm worried about in this match is I drop a Tranthicos Veteran, and then he'll drop either the Bitter End on his turn, or the troop who rallies and deploys a front line. But that's just what you gotta do. You gotta put pressure on him to do that. And I figured, okay, well, there it is. So that's what he did. Alright. Well, thankfully, the barricade is just a 1/3. My vet could still stay alive, increase his attack, and so long as he doesn't do it again a second turn or play 2 more barricades, I've got a troop on table that he has to answer. I baited him out a second time, and rather than escape vent that troop, I went with the healthy troop. Now, he could very well, if he had the, I forget the name of the card, but it destroys a troop of 3 or less, he could have played it on those vets. He did not. Instead, he had Rack and Ruin, and he dropped that on me. And he loaded me down hard. I'm at 17 health down from him at this point in time. However, I've got 2 of the most powerful pump troops that you can get, and there you go. Perturabo's Wrath is going to let me do what I need to do all by myself. I don't even need to lash these boys. Boom. 11. Boom. 14. And then I'm going to finish it up with the other 2. And he's going to be kind of sad. But father versus son, I think Perturabo would actually be pretty proud of something like that. Although you don't know. I think that guy's got a temperament. So, yeah, I like that picture of Falk there pulling up in the icon. So that was that game. Very straightforward, even with the front line. I think the big thing to watch out for in that matchup, again, he could have played, if he had the Bitter End, he could have put down 2 more front lines, and that really would have stalled me out and frustrated me. And then at that point, he could afford to drop higher and higher cost cards, but he didn't. And then we've got this one here. This is a Korax game. Now, stealth can be a pain. Stealth can be a big pain in the butt, because you can't face bash what is stealth. Now, this game here, I actually kept everything. I kept this Guitar Protector because of that stealth. Conchador, even though it's a 5 cost, it's one I want in my hand, because I can very quickly get my opponent down to 9 health, and that's a game winner. So I kept it. I probably didn't need to keep Melgator. I probably could have mulliganed out Melgator. I think most games against Korax, keeping Melgator in hand just doesn't pay off. It's not. And most of the stuff that he's dropping is either vehicles, stealthed, or troops with awesome rally abilities that you don't want to put back in his hand. But, you know, sometimes it's not a bad idea. So I put the vehicle down first. I could have put down Jubok first, but I want to get those vets in my hand. The sooner I get them in my hand, the better. And I only need one. I only need one to do the job. Now, what I'm doing here on turn 4, falling right at 8 health behind, I'm going to put out Beast of Fire first, because I'm going to bait him. So even though it's got maintenance 2 on my turn, I can still make it pumped, and either he's got to spend on his 5 energy, he's got to come out at me with a Scimitar Speeder, or he's got to come, there you go, so he comes out with those guys. Or he could have come out with the Scimitar Jet Bike, rather, in which case he still would have put something out in response to what my cards are, so I forced his ability. And it actually worked one more hand because of the top deck draw here. Now, unless he's got 2 of those in hand, he just lost his opportunity to break the stealth on these guys. And at the same time, he had to answer those Beasts of Fire, because that was going to be some brutal damage coming to him. But he didn't. And then here, we're just going to make things really hard for him here. So he's still up 11, but not for long. Again, Goldstones, a very quick pumpable. They quickly become a 5, so now he's looking at 14 damage, and then things get ugly. And it's over pretty quick. You can stealth all you want, but if I'm not leaving you with anything on the table with 1 health, you can't hide from me. I've got a 3 damage, I've got a 5 damage, and he knows that it's over, and that ends the game. I think I tried squeezing in a ha 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 ha, I like that emote there, but it was too late. I think he charged me before I got that in. So we got this. We got the game against the stealth. We got the game against frontline. Let's go against game against Erlen. It's just too quick. I want to go against Angron. Angron's a little bit trickier because Angron can actually have 3 attack, which makes it harder to chain the. Oh, this is a Garo game. Sorry. I know I fought Angron with Falk, but hang on here. Move this. This is one of my games where I was trying to get my challenge in, and it took like 5 people before I found a bot who would let me do it. Do I have a Falk against Angron saved? There we go. I knew I fought him. Yeah, because Angron's got that natural 3 attack, and that makes it very hard to chain your Bloodthirst combo with your vet. So you really just have to rely on the damage. Now, I got rid of Precision Bombardment here because typically Angrons don't run a whole lot of troops, so that's not going to do anything for me aside from throw 3 damage down, and I'd rather have some bodies on the table to put pressure on. Now, to kind of go with that, the Angron game is also different than that game against Korax, for instance. I wouldn't want to leave Korax or Angron on 1 health. That would be bad news for me. See, I always have to kind of watch it a little bit, especially with the Primarchs, in terms of how they're going to whisper. Knowing how Angron's whisper triggers, that helps. And he's up on me by 6. And I'm just going to have to put pressure on here right from the get-go. He knows what I can do, I'm sure. All you have to do is tap on my guy to see what that guy's capable of. And he's going to sabotage him. Just not even deal with it. Okay, well, I've got a 3/6 body who I can still turn into a 5 attack with my ability. So that's not terrible. And again, if I'm losing the harsh discipline, then that's not so bad. I'm okay with that. It turns him into a 5. And then I'll drop another one. No, now you've got 1 to deal with, who's still alive, by the way. And now you've got the second one. You tell me what you're going to do. The move's in your court. We're keeping this game close. Well, he's going to finish off 1, which I guess he was anticipating that and figured that, my attack won't get so high on that vet. And I'm only going to get 1 use out of him, so there's no point using that harsh discipline in my hand. I'm going to make him an 11 attack, though. I'm going to make him pay for it. Now, I've got Conjurador in my hand. So all I have to do is get him to 9 health, and I can Contrador for the win. And at this point, it's really just a kind of a back and forth to see. Now, that's some pretty crummy luck with regards to his defensive satellites. But on the plus side, keeping my Nisor Scout to 1 health prevents me from using Falk's ability on that. I've just basically just got a one attack dude. The bitter end I'm going to go ahead and play here because we're getting into that pinch time. He could pump out with some Sark land speeders and, double sweeping advances. So we're going to hold off, try to hold out as long as we can. And now I've got enough with the Goldstone Hunters is 3 plus Contrador. So I'm getting there. Plus with the guys on table. But I think I'm just a little bit shy in terms of getting him to 0. So I'm going to have to bait him out one last time. And I've got plenty of bodies to do it. Barring a conquest, or a conqueror, rather, on this turn, I've got the ability to really pump out some damage on my next turn with the bodies I've got on the table. And he does not have it. Otherwise, he would have played it before that front line. He's going to go with Wraith instead. That, even though he's getting rid of 2 of my guys, I can turn Jubok into a 4. I can turn that Goldstones into a 5 as 9, plus my Contrador, and that's enough to do it for me. There's just so many options of damage in my hand right now with the viral bombs and the firewalkers and precision bombardment. It's a little ridiculous. I hate when that happens. So just, the veterans are your big components, but they're not your sole answer to the game in this deck. There's just a lot of late game ways to go. You can definitely take the early game, but if you go late game, if you've got your opponent's health down low, they're susceptible. The Iron Warriors damage burst potential is just huge. It's just huge. Now, one thing to consider about this, and it took me a little bit. It just took me I think about a day or 2 in practice last month, because I was warming up with Falk and I wanted to see if it was the deck I wanted to bring into the next 2 months. Because I enjoyed the Curse deck and it was really fun. 2 months of Night Lords, and I really had a good feel for that deck. So I was used to playing it a certain way in terms of deploying troops and comboing. And it took me a little bit to remember and get used to, if I'm going to use Falk's ability, don't deploy your other troops unless they're Goldstone Hunters. Use his ability first, then deploy your troops, because otherwise you're dropping troops, you're lashing them, they can't attack if they're not fast, so they're just taking 1 damage for what? For nothing. So it's better to save that and just remember, first step, use his ability. Second step, deploy your troops. Unless it's Goldstone, in which case deploy Goldstone, use ability, and proceed from there. So that's really all I've got to say. I've had fun with it. I'm gonna stick with it unless something great and golden comes along here in the next what are we down? 8.5 hours. They could change my mind. I won't lie. It could change my mind, but that's what I'm going to go with. And I think I'm going to run him for 2 months and see how things are going. I definitely think this deck in general, even though I haven't encountered too many Thousand Suns yet at this 2900 level mark, I can do damage. And I think I can do damage faster than they can do damage to me at the end. We'll see. I break 4,000 with it, maybe, if I've got the time to play and dedication. I'll be honest with you, this month is really just going to be, real life factors playing in terms of my time and availability. The second month will be the shining, the true test, I guess, in terms of this is how it could already be. Because, like I said, I've already lost, I think, 3 or 4 days into this month. We're the 6th, June 6th. I think I lost 3 days of this first part of this, the first 3 days, just just didn't have time. And now I've got time, and I want to put this out there. Again, this isn't the first Falk you'll see. This isn't the last Falk you'll see, especially depending on what we see with the new neutral cards. But it is my Falk, and maybe I'll tweak it and change it over the course of 2 months and find some things work and some things don't. I definitely have got my eye on a few cards here, and I'm really kind of curious to see what the new neutral cards will bring. And if I could squeeze in a second Beast of Fire, you know I would. You know I would. But there you go. That's it. So that is it for me. Shared some games, shared a deck, shared some thoughts. Hopefully got you inspired. You don't need to have every card I've got to make it work, but you definitely got to have those vets, Harsh Discipline, and I'd strongly recommend Escape Vents to make it work the best. Because that really gives your vets the shield that they need. But there you go. So that's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching, and keep playing Legion.
Alright, that wraps it up for me. If you liked what you saw, feel free to like and subscribe, add any comments below, and if you think the video might be useful or the series might be useful, feel free to share that with other players that you know as well. And we'll talk to you later.